Fire and Rescue, Thursday, May 18th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. This is a public meeting of the Budget Committee of the Central Coast Fire and Rescue District, Licking County, State of Oregon, to discuss the budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. And the meeting will take place on the 18th day of May, which is today, at 5:30. The purpose of the meeting is to receive the budget message and to receive comment from the public on the budget. Then I guess we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have roll call. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have the introduction of the Budget Committee members. We will start with Joe.
I am Joe Vandehay.
Rita Valentine.
Susan Swanger.
Chloe Sullivan.
Rita Ackerman.
Kevin Battle. John McCullough.
And we do have a quorum. I believe that Mr. Aiken is on his way.
He's on his way.
Yeah, okay. And Mr. Woodruff is excused. We heard from Mr. Hartzell. He's absent. Okay, we have the election of the chairperson.
I nominate Joe Vandehay.
I have a motion to nominate Joe Vandehay. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none.
I should have waited till 5
All
more minutes.
all those in favor of Joe as chairperson? Aye. Motion carried. Take it away, Joe.
Presentation of the budget. Hello, everybody. Good evening. And so, Jamie, are you going to be doing the presentation again this year, or am I going to read this off?
That you guys have to elect a budget officer. It should be in.
No, he's the chair now. You are the budget officer.
Oh, we've already got that far. Okay.
If we need to, I nominate him.
I am ready. Whenever everybody is. Yeah. So.
Yep.
All right. So, up on the screen, but you should have handouts in front of you to follow. These numbers are a little hard to read. I know for me, sitting way back here, the numbers over in the green section are getting a little harder to read. But this year's upcoming income, so this whole tab here is all about income. So the column on the left says the permanent rate is expected to bring in just over $370,000. Operations levy is expected to bring in a little over $573,000. The operations levy, which is switching over to an operational levy from the serial levy last year, is expected to bring in $157,000 and change. We have previous levy taxes estimated at $3,500. The lease with PacWest at $14,400. Sale of surplus is the truck we just sold at $16,800. And EF recovery, we're estimating $12,000 in income from highway billing. Conflag, we put $5,000 in there. That's what we made this last year. We're hoping to make that or more. That's a number that's completely determined by the fire season. There's really no way to have an accurate number for that whatsoever. But based off of this last weekend, if that keeps going, that number should be a pretty good number.
Yeah.
So, and then of course 12,000 in interest for the year total from having our funds in the different accounts. So the middle column just shows the breakdown of the numbers on how we got to the permanent rate, the operations levies. So that's all those numbers, and then the green section is the forecast for the next 4 years, based off of just a 3% increase overall. That's the cap for what we can do. So our biggest issue right now is that because of the 3% cap, our income is not raising higher than our operational expenses are. Our operational expenses are sitting around 8% increases, and we're only getting 3% increases because of a law that was put in place back in the mid-90s that does not allow for our income to go up above 3% per year. And that's based off of assessed values per home.
Is that the state law? Is that a state law?
It's a state law.
That was passed.
Yeah. It's something that everybody's dealing with. It's not a special situation for us. Everybody's stuck at 3%, and everybody's costs are higher than 3%. So,
So sale of surplus property, we sold something already, but we're not getting paid until July 1st.
no, we've already got paid, but we have to account for that money coming in.
In next year's budget?
Yeah, we didn't account for that money to come in this current year.
Okay,
We didn't plan on selling that truck in this current year.
got it.
So,
It is accrued in this year,
yeah,
so you wouldn't carry it over.
yeah. So if you go to the next page, that gives us to the main tab, which is the actual operating budget. First section is our personnel services section. This is the majority of our funds here. So it shows that last year we had personnel services of $819,491.89. That's pre-negotiation, so that's why there's a bigger jump there. When we went into negotiations, the funding had to be corrected for the new negotiated amount on the contract. This next year, our personal services is going to be at $879,640.44. So that's what's taking up roughly 80% of our budget, is personal services. We need to get that to where our income coming in versus personal services should be around 72% is where we need to be. So that's going to be something we're going to have to figure out in the near future as we go.
So there was a budget amendment that adjusted personnel services this year.
This current year, yes.
Okay, this is what's shown in 2020.
Right. These numbers are what was on there last year when we did the budget committee.
No, this was called the adjusted number after the budget resolution was passed.
But you know what, it is,
Yeah.
Brett did
Yeah.
have me go in there and adjust those. Because I think it was 748, or somewhere in the 7 range. So yeah, no, it is the adjusted numbers.
Okay.
I try not to do that though. I try to keep them the same as what you saw last year, so that way you know the difference this year.
Yeah, so I looked at last year's and saw it was a $100,000 increase, give or take, so,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, but I like to keep them the same, that way you can see costs up and down,
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
So, when you look at operational costs, which is the next section down, you'll see that we did raise maintenance back up to 20,000, and that's because last year we did 15,000, and that did not cover the amount of maintenance we had, bringing repairs for vehicles, so that got put back up to 20,000. Fuel was increased an additional 1,500. Last year, fuel did not cover, the number we put in there did not cover for the fuel costs that we saw. However, fuel costs seem to be stabilizing a little bit, so we're hoping it'll come back down into this range. Turnouts, bumped that up because our turnout vendor did do a price increase on us, so they bumped that up just a little bit, although we're not going to need a lot of turnouts this next year. Medical supplies are doing fine. We've got a really good relationship with PacWest, so a lot of our medical supplies are being traded out when we use them on scene, so that's keeping our costs down. The Zoll, the minor equipment, the equipment repairs, those are all annual repairs on our equipment. Most of them are required to keep warranties in place, and so those are spread out amongst a variety of different pieces of equipment. Equipment testing, this is our hose testing, ladder testing, SCBA testing, those are all required for OSHA and ISO, so those are in there. Those stay pretty much the same. We haven't seen a change in that. CERT equipment is basically money that we provide the CERT for them to keep their equipment up to date as needed. And then Vector Solutions, Check It is what we use for our fleet management program. Although Eric's working on an in-house fleet management program that'll probably supplement that, and we'll be able to take that off of our budget later on down the road. Training, trying to, now that COVID-19 is no longer an issue, trying to get back into doing some out-of-district training classes, or trying to bring out-of-district instructors in so that we don't get stuck with just teaching the same thing over and over again with the same people. Fingerprints, those are just based off of how much we expect to send off certifications and whether we're going to have fingerprints. We're being optimistic that we'll get some more volunteers in the door, and so therefore we'll have a higher fingerprint cost because new volunteers have to be fingerprinted. So, and then Target Solutions is how we track our EMS and our fire training, so that's a subscription cost in there. And so last year it was $69,000. This year it's a little over $74,000 in cost that's just for our operations.
Why no scholarship for EMT?
Because the Volunteer Association took over EMT scholarships.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what Bingo's about. Yep. The final section. Sure, I followed this page correctly. There we go. So the final section is essentially our bills, materials and services. The association gets money from the district so that they can buy things. They have a district-specific line item to buy things, like this TV was bought with the district line item. It's for the association's events, but it's also the district's property, so it's used for training as well. So that came out of their account instead of the tag account. The district banquet, we did the banquet again for the first time this last year. We're looking to do it again this year. Accounting, that's Brett's cost. Audit is our annual audit, which is, it's just a little bit under that amount there. Oregon Ethics Commission, and then legal costs. I decreased legal costs because
Yay!
from a year from now, our legal costs have dramatically gone down. Coincidentally. So, other than a couple of phone calls for some clarifications on working with different agencies and things that I've had to get from legal, we've had almost barely any legal costs this last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, but.
That's correct. And actually, the account has a negative, but there was a check that never cleared from last year.
Look at that, I made
Supposed
money
to
off
go.
it. Got another chief with that.
Is the lawsuit gone?
No, the lawsuit's not gone. We will see some costs eventually on that, but we haven't had any yet so far. I can't talk about it, so.
Yeah.
Office administration service subscriptions, we've got a variety of subscriptions from Amazon for our supplies to Adobe for our PDF documents. We provide gym membership for everybody, and everybody has workout requirements now. Microsoft accounts. There's a laundry list of subscriptions that we have for the district we're working. And then we've gone through and weeded out any non-essential ones, so that's why you see a little bit of a decrease there. Bank fees are bank fees for moving money. Office supplies. We are buying a copier, so we're buying a photocopier that's more capable than the one we're releasing. In 2 years of lease payments would be the same as buying this copier. So essentially after 2 years, we're no longer throwing money out the door to lease a copier that will own it. And it just seems a little bit more fiscal responsible to just buy one instead of continue to pay for somebody else's. We still have to buy the supplies, but we were buying that stuff already anyway. So, and then memberships, we chuck money over to the rope team every year. We have the OFSOA, We have the board's memberships for special district. We did drop the international, I think we dropped one of the fire chief ones that I wasn't using because it was a national one. So it just didn't make sense to keep paying for something I'm not using, so. And then SDAO, of course. Our phones and internet, that's mostly Pioneer. Dispatch, we have active 911 for dispatch for our phones. That's a pretty low cost thing. Tidewater Station, all the automation at Tidewater is managed through Starlink Internet, so those are on there. And then our AT&T cell, we have one cell phone, and then we have air cards for our mobile dispatch terminals that are in our trucks. And so that's all ran through AT&T FirstNet. And then the general utilities for power, water, gas for all facilities. That's the bulk of this section right there. Is that. We still use the SLR building for storage, so we still have the annual lease for that. The station mortgage, which is really the station's interest payment on the loan that they're holding for the next 5 years until we find out whether or not we're going to get legislative support for the water system. We're paying the interest on that, so that's the interest payment right there.
Can you scroll down, please?
Yeah. Am I in the right spot?
Yep.
Okay. The boat slip, we were talking today, it sounds like the boat slip's going to go away though. We're working with the port to partner with them, so that's going to go away, but that's in it for now. And then we removed ground maintenance. We're doing that with our own personnel in-house, so that we're not paying somebody from the outside to come in and take care of the ground maintenance.
The cost of the boat slip is going away, not the boat slip itself.
The cost of the boat slip is going on. Now, the boat's in the boat slip right now.
You just got it.
Yeah, no, the cost of the boat slip is going on. Under dispatch and communications, so WVCC fee, that's our dispatching fee. So normally that would be up in the $54,000 range. The offset on that is the 911 cell phone tax. Gets that down to $22,000 for us. So still a lot of money, but luckily the 911 tax cuts that down.
So they aren't increasing it at all?
It's going up a little bit, not much.
Okay.
So it's based off of our call volume,
Right.
and our call volume is kind of doing this right now. So minus last weekend, don't look at last weekend.
Okay, right, yeah,
Last
no
weekend was
kidding.
ridiculous, but our county radio agreement is all of the fire districts in the county share the equipment that's on the 5 towers, and so all of us chip into an account for maintenance on those equipment. So that's what that is. Public education is just buying stickers, whatever we need for different school events and things, little coloring books for the kids, stuff like that. And then our insurance is, so the district's general insurance policy, the main policy which covers building and vehicles is the $18,000 that went up. We didn't have any claims. That went up because the costs of everything are going up, and this is how they're reacting to it. I had quite the conversation with them on the phone about this because it went up almost $4,000. And so like that's a lot. Accidental health policy did not go up, that stayed the same. And then our 24-hour death and dismemberment policy also stayed the same. That's actually 3 years, so it'll stay the same for 3 years. It may look at 3 years. So that brought that section to 164,330. So when we get down here to the bottom, scroll down here, where all the important numbers are. So at the end of this current budget year, the amounts we'll have in our accounts based off of the estimation of what we're spending in June is supposed to be around $412,957.69. The funding projected to come in throughout the next budget year is $1.148 million. That leaves a total of $1.561 million in projected funding for the year. So Throughout the year, between personal services, operations, and material services, we expect to spend $1.118 million. In funding, that's going to leave an unappropriated ending fund balance of $442,831.33. We are holding for capital $22,000. On here it says 18, but it's I corrected that tonight on my final. And that's the engine 72 payment. The 18 was actually the SCBA payment before, that got paid off. That's getting paid off this month. It should be in the stack of checks you guys signed. That's like $17,000 change one signed it off. Yeah, so, the only capital fund cost we're gonna have, so to speak, is the engine 72 payment for this next year. We hold $20,000 on contingencies, so that brings our contingencies and capital funding costs to 42, which is, if you look on the board, you see the correction up there. Funding necessary to carry over for July to November is $375,000. That's our float to get us from July 1st to essentially when taxes come into our accounts in November. That's going to leave us with a total unappropriated fund of $25,831.33.
Thank you, Jamie. That was very well done, well presented. Do we have any discussion? Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask about the budget?
So on the first page, the total resources is what? 1.577. And then on the third page at the bottom, it's 1.561. The difference seems to be the 16.8 sale of surplus. So I'm going to ask again, because I think your 16.8 is already accounted for in the current budget and shouldn't be included in this budget.
That's right, it shouldn't carry over. It's actually in the net working capital, line 4, remaining funds. It's booked this year, so the cash is in the bank, so it carries over into this year. So, yeah, we don't need a budget for that.
As income
We actually don't need
in
a budget.
20, so that shouldn't be on there.
Okay, yeah, we should take that off then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or reduce it if you anticipate that there will be any sale of surplus items.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from the budget committee or?
Bank fees didn't carry over to the LB 31.
Yeah, I saw that, I had it on there, but I was going through this.
We got $40,000 in building maintenance, which I think needs to be moved probably to interest expense under the building fund. Is that correct?
Should be relabeled.
Okay. It's just showing
What's
under
on here,
building
we'll have to
maintenance.
change it
so
on here.
And then I guess I had a concern about vehicle repair only being 20,000 when in previous years we were at 81 and 42. I don't have, I guess I probably have it somewhere over here, but I don't know what the expense is.
So our current year, Brett, what's our current year this year?
It is, got it right here, 28,797. In prior years, if you remember, we had a lot of deferred maintenance, and there was a big ticket item there last fiscal year.
Right.
Came
So-
into play,
So deferred maintenance is ignoring the fact that the truck is broken. We don't ignore the fact that fire trucks are broken anymore.
So yeah, I'm just bringing it up. I'm just curious if we
Yeah,
think
well, I
that's a
think
pretty
we-
good number.
Well, and also now that I'm EBT, the labor cost of shop labor is gonna go down considerably because we're not paying $250 an hour to a shop. That's in-house now, so that's where you save a lot of money, so.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a wishful thinking number, right? Because I can't predict if fire trucks are gonna break down or not. I mean, I can with this fleet, but it's really just what we think we're gonna spend. You know, obviously, I was really optimistic and wrong last year because I put budget at 15,000 for vehicle maintenance, thinking that, well, we had done a lot of fixing of the deferred maintenance that was left by our predecessor. So maybe we're caught up and things are gonna be okay, but, you know, all of a sudden the clutch band goes out on the engine, that has to go to a shop, because it has to be fixed by a shop. That costs a lot, you know, it doesn't take much of fire trucks, you know, having mechanical issues before those cost numbers really skyrocket fast.
Yep.
And I'd like to say that that's just not gonna happen in the future, but it is. Most of our fleet falls under NFPA's definition for antique. I mean, it's really, until we can get a plan in here that doesn't literally burden the taxpayer with a massive bond, we can't replace some of these vehicles just like that. We've got a new tender coming in off of grant, so that helps a lot. That's $460,000 that the public doesn't have to come up with. I've got an engine that's on a grant, I've got another tender that's on a grant, but those ones haven't been awarded. One's been awarded, but not funded. And then the other one, we won't even find out till September, if not later than September on that one. The more we can get those off grants, that's great. We don't have to go out to the taxpayer for those funds. But grants are grants, and they're not guarantees. And so, you know, we went out for the seismic, and we thought that was gonna be no problem, because there's not that many places going out for seismic anymore. You know, a lot of people have already done it over the last decade. And then come to find out that this year was one of the highest years they've had applications for. And so there are 47 applications, and out of the 47, only 22 fire emergency services agencies got awarded. And we weren't one of that 22. So that's just unfortunate. But
Is that something you could reapply for?
we're reapplying in December, yeah. But we have to come up, so we have to come up with a plan on how we're gonna fix two different areas. Because we have our capital expenses, that's buildings and fire trucks, basically, right? We need to replace some of our fire trucks, and this building needs to be overhauled. It's not up to life safety code. It definitely doesn't meet any of the new cancer protocols that they're putting out for firefighters nowadays. Plus whatever's gonna come out over the next 20 years, right? So we gotta figure out how are we gonna address that, and how are we gonna fund that? You know, we keep going out for grants, and unfortunately we keep getting told, well, you know, your call volume's too low, your population you serve is too low, it's not really hitting the targets for the areas, and they ship off $6 million to Portland. You know, I don't know what Portland's gonna do with $6 million, but I guarantee you there's 20 fire districts that could have done a hell of a lot more with it. You know, but that's how the system is. And so we have that problem. Then we have the fact that our operational costs are growing faster than the state allows our income to grow. You know, so fuel costs, costs of buying equipment, costs of buying just our protective clothing went up 4.5%. So that's a percent and a half higher than our budgets allow to grow.
Do you know what the history is behind that 3% cap? Why was it
I think it's because you can have some years where the housing market assessed values will go up dramatically, like we've seen in the last few years. And then you have some years where the housing assessed value doesn't go up even 3%. It only goes up maybe 1.25%. And so they thought over a long spectrum of time that it'll just be a balanced out number, right? But we're not seeing that. For the last several years, we've seen assessed values going up much higher than 3%. But because of this law, it locks it in at 3%.
How do we get that law changed? Is it,
We take a ballot initiative, the legislature will not touch it.
No, not only that, but then you're going to have people who are going to be very opposed to it because you don't know what it's going to be until you know what the market's doing, you know? And if you had an 8%, like you had last year, we had an 8% increase, people's taxes going up 8% just because automatically because of the increase, you know, that's a lot. So that could put people in a hardship. Whereas 3% seems to be everybody's used to, you know, so they kind of expect it.
That's
That
locked.
it's gonna go up.
It's locked in by a proposition that Oregon passed a number of years ago. I want to say it's 13, but that might be California.
13 was
It is
California.
And
California.
57 or something like that. I don't recall.
It's 37 in Oregon.
You know, 15, 20 years ago, this wasn't a problem. 3% was keeping up very well. We had higher volunteer numbers back then. You know, the economy was just different
Yeah.
overall back then. That's not what it is today. That doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be in 20 years from now either. It could revert back. You never know. But what it is right now, what we are currently seeing is we are seeing even the price to just feed our people after going on a really major call is going up high, you know, higher than it used to be. Our fuel obviously has been hitting us where we're trying to lock that number in without just putting an inflated number out there. Maintenance, you know, the costs, so insurance, you know, talk to Steve with our insurance, and, you know, he's like, hey, the cost of metal alone has gone up so much that if your fire truck crashes and you have to fix it, it costs that much more to fix it. So, yeah, you get
Expenses are going up more than the 3%.
And then I say, but our fire trucks haven't crashed in 3 years. He says, well, don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, that'll be it.
Knock on wood.
Especially now that I'm driving every 6 days. You don't even know what's gonna happen now. So, you know, for the next 2 months. So,
I call it job security.
yeah.
When was the last time you ran the MVRs on people?
I mean,
Every year.
we get the it's on all our people, but, you know. But so we have that other side of that ticket is in the next 2 years, we have to figure out what to do with our main levy. Our main levy is gonna have to at least come up to match our operational costs. That means there's gonna be an increase. There's just no way around it. So we have to figure out what is that increase gonna be? You know, we increased from going from a serial levy to the operations levy, which cuts it down by 5 years. We increased it by 10 cents just to kind of hold out for those next 2 years to get to our main levy. And that 10 cents is already being overrun, if you will. So just because everybody thought, you know, it's 8%, so the next year has got to be down low. It has to be. And now they're forecasting for this coming year 6%. So they're coming off an 8% going into a 6%. When everybody's like, well, if it's 8%, then the next year is probably going to be like 3%, 2%, you know? No, 6%. So in 2 years, essentially, you're looking at a, 8 and 6, so it's a 14% increase, and the district's only gonna grow 6% in 2 years.
Is there a way of educating the district populace, you know, people like me that get a tax bill every year, before the 2-year mark hits, and we all get our tax bills and go, hell?
Yeah.
You know, a good year in advance, some PR stuff maybe, about why you need it, what's going on.
Yeah, we will as it gets closer. It's almost if you start too early and, you know, people forget. And if you start too late and people don't get enough, we gotta find that magic spot, and that's gonna be where the board comes in and says what they want me to do. So,
Yeah, your vote was a lot closer than I thought it should have been
yeah.
on this last one, and I think there is a huge opportunity to do more education, and I think the earlier the better, so that people understand the growing problem and not wait until, you know, even 3 or 6 months before the election, because you've got to gear people up for what's coming.
Yeah, it's difficult to figure out how to reach everybody on so many different levels, because like there's social media reaches some people, literally going door to door reaches some people. We did an open house, and the premise of the open house was come in and ask us about the levy. And we did the open house, and we had a bunch of people come and bring their kids in. I got one question for the whole night, one question. And so that tells me that if we're going to get information out to people, we're going to have to go give it to them. They're not going to come get it.
So does the district ever do a district-wide newsletter in the mail? I mean, that's the way you get everybody in the district. Anything else, you're hit and miss with certain-
We've talked about that, but you're looking at, if we did a newsletter to mail it out to all the district members, you're looking at $1,500 to $1,800, and that's not printing costs. That's just
the
mailing.
cost.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the problem, is if we did it even quarterly, you take that, say, $3,000 and you times that by, you'd be looking at $9,000 a
Even if
year.
you did it annually, started with
Yeah.
one this next year and then one the following year, so people start to see that there's a need coming.
Yeah, so we printed out our annual operations update, and we have a bunch of copies of that. And we've been trying to give it out to people, like at bingo and stuff, we try to give it out, and maybe half the people actually take it.
Yeah.
And it's got all kinds of budget information in there, and calls specifics, and, you know, where what equipment's at what station, and how old it is, and, you know, it had a fleet listing in there that showed, based off of NFPA, you know, what year is the recommended replacement year, and what vehicles are beyond the recommended replacement years. You know, so it had lots of really good information in it, but, you know, only a few people are taking it.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that you want to get out district-wide somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also hoping that maybe with some of the improvements that we're hoping to do, that just activity around the fire station and that sort of thing is also going to catch people's attention. And hopefully, you know, engender some more community pride and community, you know, backing and so on.
Yeah, we definitely want to give the fire station a facelift. It is definitely an eyesore when you drive by. I've got a brick falling off the front because the tabs are growing and not holding on. Our doors, because we've had to replace panels, certain panels on the doors, they're different colors. I mean, it's due, but as you can see, you know, the reason why this budget meeting is really fast is when you have a restricted budget and there's not a lot of money to spend, you don't have to talk about a lot of money because it's just not there.
Unfortunately, too, if you look at the last special election, the voting turnout was what, 21%?
Yeah.
22%? So, you know, even if there is a lot of education, and if it's a hot potato item, as the port was, you only get 22% of people turning out to vote. But that, you know, the other 68% will bitch all year about what happened and didn't happen.
Never gonna stop, never gonna be able to stop that, but,
Yeah.
The November one with our levy on it was only like 33%.
yeah, yeah. We try to hit November elections that have big political topics that, you know, more people are gonna be apt to vote on. And so then ours is just there too.
And the presidential election year.
Yeah,
It also,
presidential election
it also
years.
reduces the election costs quite a bit.
Yeah.
Can't make it any easier to vote.
So,
Pick up your
you know,
drop it in the box. It's not
Yeah.
hard.
we are constantly looking and applying for grants every chance we can to try to alleviate the costs. You know, we don't attract a lot of grant donors, so to speak, because we're not a huge agency. You know, if you talk to certain political figures and you start talking about money, the first thing that they bring up is the population. And so like if you say, oh, it's gonna be this much money, it's like, well, based off your population, that's about this much per person. And it's like, whoa, let's talk about the project, not the people. Like, it's serving not just the people who live here, but everybody who passes through here. Everybody that we respond to, we respond all the way up to Alsea. We were in Lane County last weekend when I was on shift. We had to go all the way down to Lane County. And we're going all the way up into Newport, Toledo sometimes, you know. It's not our population that this fire district is serving. It's everybody in this population area and going through it and around it too. And it's really hard to get people to look at that number instead of what our actual population is.
Well, actually, one of the things that I think would be nice to try to attack legislation-wise is the room tax, that it all goes 100% to promoting.
Tourism.
And the bottom line is you have people coming from all over. Like I said, tourist season's coming. And these people expect fire departments, like where they're from, they have no idea that in population base, you're dealing with the population that's here, not the population that shows up here. Yachats is a fine example, town of 600 that grows to 10,000 on the weekend in the summer. So I don't know how many people move into Bayshore, but I think 70+% of the homes in there are secondary homes. So we've got to find a way to attack or approach, not attack. Well, what's in a word? The legislation to get some of that money from the room tax and put it into public safety.
Well, actually, now, speaking with my other hat on, the city does, a portion of the room tax goes for, towards public safety for the city, but not the fire district, because the fire district is separate. And then, in addition to promotional activities and so on, it also supports community things, like it pays for the community center, for locals and so on. So it's not all being spent just on tourists.
What is the total population, resident population of the fire district as opposed to the city? Or
The total for the district's right around 4,500.
4,500 is all?
Mhm.
City's only 22.
Over how many square miles?
36 and a half.
Yeah.
Yep, that's our district boundaries, right? But our district boundaries are not our limitation. Like I said, if we popped off a wildland fire right now in the LC area, we would go 44 miles up LC River to fight that fire, because they're gonna call us for help. Rightfully so, we would call them for help if we needed it too.
Yeah.
And so now you take into consideration that, okay, well, 36 and a half square miles is our normal district. Then you add on the additional 16 miles outside our district we just went for that fire, because it's an unincorporated area that's not covered by a fire district. And then we have that responsibility also because we're closest resource. So the fire marshal always says, it's yours, because nobody else is gonna go to it. So, but we do get the bill for those. And we do bill for anything that's not taxpayer. So if you disable your boat in the bay because you didn't pay attention to the tide table, and you're from Milwaukee, you're gonna get a bill, because you don't contribute to our tax base, and you incur costs on the fire district for our personnel to go out and pull your boat off of the bay, right? Same thing with the highway with car accidents, or if it's negligence.
Yeah.
So if you were burning on the worst day of the year that you should be burning on, and you start a fire, and that's considered negligence, and you can get billed for that, even though you are a taxpayer. So, or like if you caused an accident because you were DUI, even though you're a taxpayer, you were negligent, so you will get a bill for that. And I can tell you that for our engine to go out the door, it's $2,000. So that's the start. That's just they rolling out the door.
Yeah.
So,
Says the boat.
yeah, so it's the boat, yeah. So it can get expensive quick.
That 4,500 figure just kind of surprises me, because as many of you know, I'm one of the admins in that stupid Walport Facebook page. And we've got 11,000 members in that group. Now, granted, it could be husband, wife, kids. Huh?
I said I got my 5 personalities on there, so
Maybe that's what it is.
You get a lot of people who just like the area and come
Yeah.
visit here every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't chip in to the community and the fire, but if there's a fire in their car, they're gonna call you guys. So,
Or they
how
get
do
stuck
we
on the
get,
sandbar.
Yeah, but like I said, if they're not a contributing taxpayer, then they get billed.
they get a bill,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, the billing system is not very quick. It does require a lot of work on Wendy's end, and then we have EF Recovery is the company that handles it for us. So I would say that if we submitted a bill to somebody today, I would say, 6 months before we actually see the money? So.
And it's only about 30% of what we're actually billing.
Yeah, so it's like 8 months.
So on that topic, we've got, this year we've gathered 1,691, so 1,691. We budgeted to gather 10,000, and we're budgeting to gather 12,000 this year.
Because
What would be-
10,000 is still sitting pending.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's curious enough.
Yeah, not only that, but I hate to say it, but we lost 5,000 because of information we didn't collect on scenes that we should have
Yeah.
collected.
Just
Yeah.
training.
That is hard to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
after the fact.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, so
We-
just learning on
we
the way
can-
on that then.
We can get information from the sheriff's office relatively easily, we know a few people. But when it comes to OSP to get information, it's pretty much locked down after they leave the scene.
Gotcha.
You can't really get it. So if we don't take the information and it's an OSP accident, it's gonna get basically written off of our budget because we're not gonna be able to get the information.
I've gotten a couple, only because they got cited. That's the only time I usually get information after the fact, is if they got cited. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, so-
Still working on that one.
So we're still within our needs, like, we're still within the green budget, but if the costs keep going like they're going, we won't be able to stay that way, because our budget's not growing as fast as the costs are. I mean, it's simple money in, money out, you know. We're hoping that we just stay green until this next levy, which is 2025, is when we'll vote on the next levy round. And we'll have to do a really, really in-depth evaluation on where do we need to be now and where do we need to be in the next 5 years. That's the span of that levy. We can't keep putting numbers out there that take care of us now, and then 3 or 4 years into the levy, find out that the numbers are not carrying through because the cost went up higher than everybody expected. So, the one thing I will say is it is my, my priority to only ask for money that we have to have. It's not like I'm asking for money to just put into a savings account for a rainy day someday, although we do need those monies too. But right now, everything that we've asked for is because we have to have it. And we're getting to a point where our reserves are not carrying us because we're only having what we have to have. So our reserves are slowly slipping whatever we have to have wasn't enough because it didn't forecast out, because you can only forecast so much. I can only predict so much. So,
Well, your projected ending balance for this year is $250,000 less than last year's ending balance. So you're burning that
yeah.
pot of funds that you have pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, no, there is a possibility it could run out before we get to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody in the public that would like to add any comments?
Two of us are
Soon
just
to be
here
board
because in a
members.
couple of months, we're gonna be sitting there.
Just a couple more, numbers, well, not issues, but questions. Membership dues, seem like that could be under budgeted.
There's a, prior to when Jamie came here,
Yeah,
I was looking things one way. And he's got a different way of looking at it.
okay.
So I'm going to reclassify our year
A few of
to
those
match
things.
what it
Okay,
is.
I was gonna say.
The only concern I ever have about that is history, because your history goes goofy.
And that's, it's probably gonna be the same response for the membership and dues then, under that category.
Yeah.
And that's why that's when,
Yeah.
and last comment, the resources on or I guess, second last comment, resources on the front page, the total resources is 935,000, but I think it's at 1.5 something, or it should be 1.5. Comparing it to things, I'm just looking at LB 20. On the total resources, it's only 935,000.
Oh, you're looking at an LB form?
There
LB
are,
form, yeah.
yeah, there's the equipment reserve fund and the building reserve fund.
Okay,
Right.
And those have working capital that carries over.
gotcha.
So it's actually in number 4.
I combine them.
These are divided by fund.
Yeah,
Right.
I gotcha. But
Yeah.
it just, total resources except taxes to be levied, all that adding up is more than 935, all those.
I'll check it.
Line items is not 935, but, and then the last comment I would make is, so we got that carryover for the 375, that's supposed to be earmarked. I just want to see that is shown on the LB forms as reserve funds, just because what that'll do is help if it goes out to a bond, get a better rating, it's like, they're gonna view that as like reserve funds, they're gonna show that as like future expenditures or something like that, but if we show it as reserve funds, it's gonna allow us to have better luck getting loans or those kind of things, because bankers like to see a good reserve funds, especially with municipalities. So
It's on line 30 for the equipment reserve, line 29 for
yeah, it's
the
showing,
building, and then 30B down at the bottom. It's the reserve for future expenditure.
the reserve for future expenditure, where you see that.
Yeah. They're it's down at the bottom, but
But then
we
you
might
see,
want to.
75 reserve funds anywhere.
Unless I haven't.
You see, interfunds transfer reserve for future expenditures and negative $207,000
Yeah, I've got a formula to show.
because I don't think, because I think that the problem is that total resources on the front page is an incorrect number, so it's carrying forward on the back one and not showing that 375. But if you change that to that 500,000, that automatically switches that over that reserve for future expenditures.
I'll take care of that.
I see that. Well, that makes sense. So as long as that carries forward to show for reserve for future expenditures, I'm good. Cool. That's all I have.
I would like to make two comments, and they're not really budget specific. One is kind of, I really want to acknowledge and show my appreciation for all of the grant digging you have done and continue to do. Without your know-how to get those grants, we'd be in a lot worse shape. So I appreciate that.
That's really everybody, because I mean,
We do a lot of research.
you know, Joe and John, who are on shift today, you know, Joe just recently did a grant for tribal, which got us $3,500 for equipment. John's doing research right now on the Leary Fund to try to get us maybe possibly a new floating pump, because apparently that seems to be a thing for us lately. I hate to say it.
I don't want to just throw the pump on the boat. That sounds like
It's
I mean,
it's a
honestly-
water pump that floats on the water.
Honestly, our next boat someday down the road might not be a bad idea to have one that has a pump or a way to move water, because, so we've had a house that was on fire across the river that was only accessible by boat. We just had this wildland fire last weekend that was only accessible by boat.
Barn fire.
And then, yeah, we also used the floating pump on the barn fire because we didn't have a hydrant within anywhere near us, so we had an irrigation pump that could pull water from the floating pump. And then we used it down on the 10 Mile fire. They had their own made reservoir, water reservoir, which was their water for their property. And we took all their water out of there with our floating pump, so.
Yeah.
The one we have is what did you say, 1980?
It's made from a go-kart motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
It's still working, we are still. I mean,
Still works.
We
Works great.
we have to put some money into it because now we have a muffler issue with it or
No,
something.
carburetor.
Carburetor issue. But, you know, we just used it this last weekend on the fire on the other side of the bay. And it's extremely loud and interferes with our communications, but it does work, it does function.
Maybe it helps scare some of the cormorants away.
Maybe.
My thanks are to all of the people.
Yeah, so, you
All of
know,
you.
Wendy does a lot of searching, Eric does a lot of security grants and stuff, because he does all of our security for our buildings and things.
Well, all of that work is appreciated by a taxpayer, so I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that that gets appreciated, and I don't think we acknowledge it enough. The
Yeah.
other thing is, I want to just give you all of you kudos for this last weekend. Oh my God,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
That wasn't fun.
Well, and a rumor mill doesn't help.
No,
Well,
God, goodness.
we don't mind a busy weekend because so we can go by faster when you're on shift,
Right,
right?
right.
But when it's 96 degrees
Yeah.
outside, you know, there was a time when 96 degrees would have been really nice.
Yeah.
But I've been on the coast too long now to enjoy that time. So, you know, it gets 70 and I start thinking, why is it so hot?
yeah.
Oh, it's not that bad. It was a little rough, all right?
Yeah, say Jamie, I do have one question. Where are we at with Tidewater Station? Are we all done? Is that operational?
We're all done except for the plumbing on the 2 reserve tanks.
And I have all the parts, so there won't, if there is any expenditures, it'll be like little pieces. But I have all the parts, they're all up there in the Connex.
I mean, that thing's been dragging since before I came on board.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's
The
left.
building's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The building's all done. That reserve water supply we wanted to have up there, that's the only thing we have left to put together.
It's just hard to see because there's the giant eyesore just on the west side of it, so that's
Yeah.
still getting worse and worse. every
It's almost
day.
like sorry to see it go, because there's so many conversations about it.
No, no,
How
we're
about a
good.
burn to learn there?
No,
No.
no. Do not catch that convenience store on fire.
Yeah, no.
That's gonna run. That thing is surrounded
We've had this
by
conversation lots.
12 feet high, blackberry bushes,
Yeah, I know.
brush, garbage.
Got everything.
That thing is going to,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
We're not gonna fight the store. We're gonna fight where we think we're gonna stop that fire.
All we did was
So,
scrape
yeah.
it clean.
Yeah, that's not,
I can't understand that.
if we wanna burn that building down, we need to go in there and do some very serious landscaping management around it first. And then we can burn it.
Yeah, well, that's.
Years ago, when I was remodeling the C-Stram Plaza, which is now, Grand Central, the building next door to it,
Yeah.
there's a blackberry bush back in there, and I got in there, and it's old growth, and the trunk of the blackberry bush was 8 inches in diameter. I was thinking about turning it on my lathe. It was just, I thought it was just, I got underneath it, and there was just one stalk.
Yeah, well, if anybody ever contracts you to go and landscape or clean up the hillside across from Grand Central, you look for our pipe pole. We've lost it on the house wire. It's down there somewhere. So we'd have to rappel down to go get it, so,
It's a good road train.
yeah.
I've got a club out on the
What did you lose?
Pipe pole.
What's that?
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Oh,
Yeah, it was back there and it's,
Mike Wilson,
yeah,
go
it's
on
gone.
there. There's
A really good rain, it might slow down a little bit.
No, somebody's gonna find it in like 20 years, and somebody finally does it and clears that property up.
yeah.
And they're like, what is this? And they'll take it to the fire district at that time. Fire district's like, I remember when we used to use those. Hang it on the wall.
It'll be an antique.
I had fog and water this morning walking out of my wipers. I was using my
It was a 5-foot glass handle, so it's been there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So,
Might fade.
my face.
7 miles.
Hey, Chairman,
Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah,
Yes. Well, I believe that if we have no public comment, we now move on to, do we have any recommendations or changes?
there were some recommendations that I think Brett is gonna make changes for on a couple of the LB spots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more correction.
And these-
Yeah, those
I saw
are
that
scrivener error
transpire.
type things.
Okay.
We haven't moved
We're
any money.
taking the 16.8 out for the surplus property that's.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine at this point in time, if we could have a motion for an approval of the budget.
I move we approve the budget as presented and discussed and corrected.
Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Budget carries.
Yay.
Yay.
So I think now we turn it back over to the regular board, correct?
Yep,
And you
yep.
just adjourned,
Is there anything else we forgot to do something last year?
Oh, we
Call us back in.
Yes, we do have to do something. We have to approve the,
Levying the,
stuff. I think we
yeah.
have to make a motion.
No,
for the levy
what we do as the budget committee is make a recommendation to approve, we make a recommendation to the board to approve the budget and to levy the taxes. So basically, that's what we just did.
Oh, okay, we don't have to sign that one thing?
That's,
County.
that's in June.
That's in
That's
June.
in June.
That's the board, you know, yeah,
The
yeah, the
resolution.
board does that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're about to hand it back to you for
Yeah.
another year.
Approval of the budget goes back.
Yeah, yeah, because we have the ultimate approval in June.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you
I will
guys.
Yes,
adjourn this
thank you.
meeting For the Budget Committee. Thank you.
Good job, Joe.
Jamie makes it very easy, very well presented. Thank you.
Do we want to take a break at all, or
I'd rather just keep going.
segue into the next part?
We kept it short.
We made it really short.
Yep, okay.
Hopefully we can.
Well, we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so.
No.
At 6:30, I'll call to order the regular board meeting of Central Coast Fire and Rescue. And are we being streamed live right now? Okay. The meeting is being streamed live on Central Coast YouTube channel. If anyone has any public comments or questions, they can comment on the live stream, and the questions will be relayed to the board members and answered at the end of the meeting. As I said, we did the Pledge of Allegiance before at the opening of the Budget Committee meeting. Can I have a roll call, please? Tap, tap, tap. Zach Aiken. John McCollum.
Here.
Kevin Battle.
Here.
Rita Eckerman. Here. And Mr. Woodruff is excused. A quorum is present. Thank you. You're welcome. So we have approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the April 20th, 2023 meeting?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Citizen participation. Do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to say anything?
No, we're still just sitting here listening to you.
Okay. Finance report. Brett?
Yeah. The district ended the month of April with $662,623 in the accounts in total. Current levy funds, $886,870. Year-to-date, we're about 1% over on the levy funds. Same with the equipment levy fund, taking in $106,039. Well, prior levy funds continue to come in. $17,557 for the year, so we're over budget by about 35%. And then the sale of the surplus property that we just sold at $60,400 for the tenant. And personnel services are running a little hot, mostly due to overtime right now. But one personnel right now. That's put a little bit of a strain on that. But year-to-date, $159,016, and the district budget is $821,550 for personnel services. Equipment maintenance running high, $7,089. We only budget $2,750. Building maintenance for all three properties, $9,774 for the year. Vehicle fuels, almost $15,000, $14,991. We haven't gone over budget yet, so.
Yeah.
Vehicle repair. And engine ambulance equipment, we budgeted $54,000, but we've only spent $4,922. You know, for the most part, the budget is pretty much on target in the balance. When you consider the union increase.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking on all that, yeah.
Anyway.
Overtime should be not as bad as expense because I put myself on shift to alleviate the overtime. So that is not any 48-hour shifts and then in and out of the office throughout the week as needed for meetings or projects that I got all the time.
Better to do that if you can help it. I'd rather have you in the office, but.
That's not really a choice right now. Our overtime costs are, breaching.
Yeah.
And I'm salary, so if I work 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week, it would have been different.
Yeah.
So, at least through June, basically into the next budget year. Right now, Charlie's out with a torn calf.
Ooh,
Cody will be out soon for paternity leave, so we'll be down 2. Got a couple of people have some vacations coming up over the next 2 months. So basically, I'm on shift, Sue and Eric will be pulling some shifts. Because there would be some shifts where both people are off at the same time. And so we're just trying to balance it out to try to alleviate so we can get into the next budget year and not have an overblown overtime budget.
right.
Okay, like that. Yeah, we'll get past it. There's just been a lot of time they get to use this year, and so this is just a way of trying to mitigate the cost. So, I'm still available, but people are still getting a hold of me all the time. And, for the days that I'm not in the office, there's 48 hours that I'm in the building nonstop, so.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate it.
Well, just keep that in mind when you see the maintenance bill
Yeah.
with me driving in, so. It's been a bit.
Yeah.
I was wondering why I was swerving as it was coming up.
No, it's like right in the bike, it came right back, and, it just, I don't mind it. I did a majority of my career on shift work, so it's not like really that foreign to me. It's just trying to balance between shift work and then what do I need coming to the station, when do I need to be in the station, what meetings do I have, what appointments do I have, what things can I do from home on my computer at home versus here on the computer here. It's just balancing it out at the end of the day. So, I did 48 hours over the last weekend. Then I came in on Monday for the ops meeting and the budget meeting with Brett. And then I took Tuesday, Wednesday off. Then I came in today. I tried to minimize today to just a little bit before, so I didn't have time to make any corrections needed and then get everything ready. And then I come in tomorrow morning for another board meeting. So, it's not horrible.
Yeah.
Nice to be again in the month.
I was gonna say, we don't want you getting burned out either.
What in the future is a temp hire cheaper than overtime?
The what?
So what is in the future is a temp hire cheaper than overtime?
So we did look at a temp hire. That was one of our considerations, and while it would have been cheaper than overtime, it would have still added monies to the budget that wasn't expected. And when we asked people if they could come in, we had a couple people who were like, yeah, I can do this shift here, that shift there. This was really kind of I pick up the shifts and we know they're covered, we don't have to hope somebody's available. Because it's just me, and then when Eric kicks in, same thing, he just formulates his schedule around what's needed for those shifts. And we know it's covered, we don't have to hope that somebody's gonna come in. Especially if somebody's working the shift somewhere else and they get held up because the other place had to call in that morning and they don't have relief. So, yeah, so we did look at the possibility of bringing in a temp. It was the first thing we looked at, was could we do this instead? Would this be more beneficial? Honestly, considering that I'm working shifts, it doesn't cost the district a single cent more. So, no temporary costs, no overtime costs, it's just my time. And it's only for a couple months.
Yeah, well, we certainly don't want it as a continual
Yes.
diet.
And I have banned kickball in this district. Now it's just straight PT in the gym, no PT at the high school.
Okay.
Hear that,
What?
Joe?
Bennett in the Bay
I go to the gym, so.
Yeah.
Once in a while I play football, but that's not football, so it's okay.
Right. So, like I said, it's a temporary fix to something that, you know, just seemed like that was the most beneficial way for the district to handle it. Cost-wise.
Yeah,
I'm still responding on calls in the middle of the night too.
Yep.
I'm still here. It's just sometimes I'm here, sleeping here, and sometimes I'm here.
so Brett, are you all done?
Motion to approve financial report and the expenditures.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the financial report and pay the bills. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Back to the regularly scheduled agenda.
Zach, did you want to look
Do we have anything for old business? Do we have anything for new business?
Unless you have any,
Not that I can think of right offhand.
I have one for good of the order, but I'll wait till you do it.
Do we have any questions from the citizens or viewing audience?
Nope.
Okay, I know you submitted your written report was part of the packet, so,
Yeah.
what do you have for good of the order?
I just wanted to get it on everybody's radar that I think we need to do a board workshop early in August after the changeover of the board to get some planning in place for this, not just this next fiscal year, but really just this next year. You know, we waited for the seismic, now we know we're not getting the seismic, we need to come up with a plan of what we're gonna do and what we need to see done. And we need to have some discussions about, you know, the next couple of years' future.
On that, how's the prospectus look for getting this building given to us? Where are we at on getting the okay from the state to pay for pipe?
So, the only thing that I've heard come down from the legislature is that they've done their initial, send me what you're asking for, and Dan was putting that in. That's the only thing I've heard so far.
I don't think we've heard, I really don't think we've heard anything.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do on our behalf to
I
maybe
keep
push that
asking.
forward, or?
I keep asking, he says, well, let me know when things are moving, that we need to actually start doing stuff. One of the biggest things that we will have to do, and really I'm looking at John on this one, is we will have to go and do our testimony of why we need the money when it gets to that point. That's going to be closer to when they're doing the legislature to approve things.
I get Gomberg's weekly like update newsletter things too, and he hasn't mentioned anything in there, so anything moving. Actually, everything's been kind of at a standstill.
Well, they're kind of
They're
at
not
a
doing their job.
standstill,
They're just not showing up.
bunch of children. Anyway,
Yeah.
So and we did sign on the building is all done.
yeah.
So that was taken care of a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So.
Okay, is there anything else to come before the
So,
board?
I had actually one thing, and I haven't had a chance to tell the chief, but I did talk to Joe about it. So I went to the SCAO HR regional training yesterday, and PFB Oregon was a big subject on that. There will need to be an MOU done between the board and the union for the contract, because it needs to be in there, but you don't have to open up negotiations again to do it. You can do it with an MOU. HR Answers is actually going to be sending me a template to use for that, but kind of just change the wording, and then as long as Joe's good with it, and the union's good with it, and the board's good with it, then you guys can just do that, so
Okay.
I'll have that soon.
Why do we need that way?
It's Paid Leave Oregon, which
Oh,
is
okay.
constantly
That new one?
changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The talk is that they're gonna open up the portal in August for people to start submitting claims, with payments starting to go out September 3rd. It may change, and they may push that back, because they don't have the funding yet fully. So next month it could get pushed back to December or November, and stuff, so it's, I guess it's constantly changing. That was a big subject. We did, instead of taking a break for lunch, we actually did a working lunch to talk about it, and stuff. So they gave us some really good information. I've got a bunch of notes and stuff. And then, and actually I was gonna scan some of it, send to you. And some good info for you. HR Answers is pretty much, if we have any questions at any time, we can call them. Because we're SDAO members, it doesn't cost us to call them. So, and they're more than happy to help answer any questions we have. So, just put that on the radar. I'll hopefully have that for you guys soon.
And I did notice there was an email last week to about the upcoming ethics training. That's online ethics training. And for current board members and potential board members, it's probably not a bad idea. Did you forward that to everybody, or?
I don't honestly don't. I'll do it.
Okay,
SDAO sent
yeah,
it out.
yeah. Oh, so if SDAO sent it out, maybe I need to
I think
forward
it's
it.
part of their newsletter.
Yeah, okay.
Or a notice.
Yeah.
I can look too. And
Yeah,
send it to
yeah,
everyone, 'cause
yeah,
get all
because I know
those.
that's, I think it's, I thought it was the first week in June, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember.
I'll look, because I get all those
Yeah,
notices.
yeah.
from them.
Yeah, so, well, right, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so is there anything else?
One more quick little thing, as you guys know, the vote's down at the court finally. There is a security camera on it with motion detection. I sent it over, Deputy Hans has the link to the sheriff to see it. To eliminate some of the mortgage that worked with Roxy, we're going to clean her agreement, yes, because the fire district helps take care of the tourists that use that launch all the time. And I'm going to volunteer as a computer person for them. And we're going to put, because they want to renew all their security cameras, so. But I'm going to volunteer for them, but do the stuff as for the district, so that the district can get that mortgage going. So, and that's an ongoing thing, that won't be just 1 year. That'll be, the board's going to have about 20-some cameras down there when we're all set with that, so.
How secure is that road as far as equipment that's on that?
If somebody, honestly, if somebody wants to, they can jump on it, and if they knew where the battery was, drive off.
What are the keys in it?
There is no keys. But it is shut off battery-wise, and it doesn't work. I don't know if you guys heard that weird noise that it made. This phone, as soon as it goes off, same with Tide Water, if the alarm goes off, it does a different tone than the normal gauge tone. I carry this thing with me all the time. It's got a motion sensor on it, and record video. There's actually a pretty good video. I just seen a former member down, and one down. That's who was there. So,
How expensive would it be to have some sort of redundant switch or kill switch or something in that to make it so it's easier just turn it back on?
that's kind of what it has now, but I can look into doing that. I mean, the battery switch is not easy to find. You have to,
Yeah, you can raise it. It's right there.
yeah.
But anyone who knows, now it goes to the other.
Yeah, right, we just showed everybody.
Or stop talking about where all the special stuff is.
You don't want to break into the station.
I've always wanted a boat pursuit. Yeah, I'm set
I will, you're not gonna get very far.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait like 2 hours before the sheriff comes
You can
down.
only go so far to the west, and then that boat is definitely not gonna be able to make it anymore. And you can only go so far to the east before you run out of deep enough water.
Yeah.
So it's a big circle. It's gonna be-
Valentine ain't gonna be put much effort into that, let's be honest.
A big circle, and you're gonna get a lot of hate mail from Tidewater. That's what you get.
I got it, but again, yes, I can add a secondary dead man just to make sure that it doesn't get fired up. There isn't anything else on it that is easily removed. The only other, that the end is that it's expensive. The only thing that's really expensive is the GPS on it, our tracking, and that's pre-bolted on there, make sure it was pretty there. They'd have to spend some time, and this phone would be going off like crazy to get it to come on, but I know that they're there. So,
And I have a big light will shine on as soon as I go down
you
there
ever
at
see,
night.
don't see a call in your CAD, you see me flying through town, go to 3, it's because I'm going to the You can see all our calls too, until they fix that.
You should probably make sure you get it on yours, because you are in this area a lot. And Doug is, not always on duty, and so there's another person that is getting the alerts, maybe even Robbie too. Because you guys are all here often.
Send goes up.
If you have ring accounts, I could just share the link to you, and then you can adjust your own notifications for it. The motion level on it, I don't know if that can be changed by the shared account, but I know the notification level, if you don't want to listen to the notifications when I drop you, turn it off. But if you have a ring account, but that, even if you don't, like I did with the sheriff's office, there's a ring account set up just for the sheriff's office, this area, so.
So like right now, if you walk down there and you go anywhere near that slip,
Yeah.
it sets off the motion sensor, it starts alerting the phones. If you start touching the boat, we're gonna be calling law enforcement, and we're probably gonna be headed down there.
So we can actually really test it.
You can test it, you might have some night off or something.
So how easy is it, I guess, is vandalism at all a concern?
I don't think so. I think that if anybody tries to get in there and vandalize it, then we're gonna already have people moving that way
Right?
before they can get something
Yeah.
out of it.
You can yell at them through the,
Yeah, and I can talk to them, I can set up a siren right
Yeah.
here, and then I can talk to them, I'll get away from the dog.
Please don't touch our boats.
Yeah. I will have, it will have a cover on it, we just came up and tried to put the cover on it, and the winds we got yesterday, and yeah, that wasn't gonna happen, so we figured out a new plan, and we have some winds coming to help us keep it under control as we put it on the boat, so,
so Joe doesn't fly away.
yeah.
So I think all in all, considering it is a emergency response vehicle, those typically do get left alone.
Yeah,
If anybody goes near it, there's gonna set off a lot of alerts.
yeah,
Obviously, there's only so many people that should be anywhere near that boat in the first place.
right,
That whole slip is ours, so there's not like there's another boat that's down there that they should be down on that end anyway.
right,
So,
Is
yeah,
that slip gated or anything?
no, there's no gates on any of the slips. But even if you just went down there to look at it, it's gonna set off alarms. And I know people will go down there and be like, oh, look at fire and rescue boat, let's go take a look at it. And, as long as they don't touch it, then they're fine.
yeah.
The second that they step on one of the ribs or climb into it, then that's a different story.
About a few beers, go down there and start messing with it. just
Get on the
mess with it
gate.
all night.
Make sure it's about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Just being around here long enough, things will disappear really quickly. I want to make sure that it's, like the garden, for example, that's prime target.
So the person that was just down there, I have the motion set to where as soon as you come onto the end of that dock from a boat side, it goes off. And then if you're down 2 slips down, so it kind of follows as far as the alerts on this one, it follows. If somebody pulls into those slips, it won't, but if they're walking on that plank to that slip, to our slip, it'll set it off way back so that I can catch them before they even get to the boat. It'll start recording.
We're gonna get a lot of notifications that have nothing to do with anybody trying to do anything bad.
Just
But
check it out.
that's gonna be the cost of doing business.
And it's insured, right, so if someone's going up
It
there.
is insured.
Yeah,
It isn't sure, but all that GPS that we've got programmed in there wouldn't come on a GPS.
Just the reason to take the map and mapping again.
Hey,
We're also gonna be
All our
doing
trucks
some,
disappeared at some point a few
Yeah.
months ago anyway, so we're retracting the whole thing. Every time we go out.
we're also gonna do some training because we're all used to hooking up to the boat, driving it down to the port, launching it at the port. We're not used to it already being in the water and having to launch it from the port. So we're gonna be doing some training in the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of weeks, on deploying the boat from the port versus towing the boat to the port. and pulling it. It is a little different. It's gonna be some things we're gonna do as practice.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Anything else? I say we adjourn.
That was the shortest budget meeting you're meeting.
like I said, there's not a lot of money to spend. There's
You're
not a lot
right,
of money to
there's,
talk about.
we have a lot of choices we can make.